Pas de soleil, 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 pas de soleil. So welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to continue where we left off since March. This video is going to be a video on how to make a double-breasted shawl lapel jacket dress. It's a mouthful. So the first part of this video was made in March. In the first video, we drafted the front and the back. So this is the back, this is the front. And then the only thing that I changed before we begin is the amount of allowance that you would add at the top of your shawl lapel. So if you remember, this is the shawl lapel that we cut, that's going to be attached back, that will be attached to the dress again. The only difference you can see is that here I'm marking +7, but in the first draft I did +4. Make sure to add 7 to this shawl lapel instead of 7. The 7 will have some excess to it, but we will take care of that when we are sewing. For what you will need, this is 3 yards of fabric. 3 yards is the minimum you should use when you want to cut this, so that you are sure that everything is fine. This is stay, my interfacing, but preferably white. Black will tend to change the color of your fabric slightly, but if you have whites, make sure to do that. Here is a cotton lining. It's still 3 yards. I got 3 yards of lining, so make sure to get enough cotton lining. Before we start cutting our fabric, the first thing we are going to do is I'm going to iron on my stay onto my fabric. At least iron on 2 yards out of the 3 to your stay. The reason why I sometimes like to iron first, to iron my stay onto my fabric before cutting my fabric, is because sometimes when you iron, the fabric shrinks a bit. So if you iron before you start cutting the fabric, you'll be cutting a pattern that has already shrunk. Not that after you cut the pattern and then you iron, it now starts to lose shape. So that's why I like to iron. Sometimes I would prefer if you guys iron before you cut. So you can see here I'm simply cutting the front pattern. This is the front pattern, which you can see the excess we kept in front for the double-breasted pattern. Now the link to the first video will be in the description. I'm so sorry. The link to the video will be in the first video will be in the description in case you have not seen it already. Yeah. So the lining is what I'm holding now. The lining is the same thing with the fabric. We're going to need to cut it. It shares the same dimensions with the fabric. The only difference is that at the bottom it's going to be shorter than the main fabric by 3 inches. All right, so let me cut the lining so that I will come back and then show you how to reduce it. Yeah, so you can see under here we have the lining. This is the lining here. All right, you can see the lining is the same thing as the fabric, like I said. The next thing we're going to do is you're going to come to the bottom, and I'm going to cut off 3 inches from the bottom, so you can see me marking, connect my line, and then cut. All right, we do it so that by the time we are done sewing, it would fold your hem in like that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the back pattern. This is the back pattern. I'm going to cut it exactly like I cut the front. The fabric would be just the same thing as the paper. The lining will be different. The only difference the lining would have is that the lining would be shorter at the bottom by 3 inches, just like how we did the front. So just basically do the same thing. Also, when you are done, the back should split into 2, because remember we curved in the front of the center of the back. So you should have 4 pieces when you are done cutting, 2 for the fabric and 2 for the lining. I hope that it's clear. You can see this is the pattern I used to cut both of them. Then next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to need to cut the lining. You can see this is the lining here. You can see we have two patterns for the lining, 2 patterns for the fabric. You can see this, I have cut it 3 inches shorter. All right, so make sure to do that. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to mark all the dart points. All right, so using the paper, I'm going to mark all the points that we marked our darts on the paper on the fabric. I'll do that on all sides of the fabric and on the lining. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm laying it flat like that. Make sure everywhere is perfectly balanced, and then you simply make a mark. This is the middle, you see that? So I marked at the top, then I marked at the middle, now I'm marking at the end. All right, so that's at the top and the fullest point, then at the bottom draw a line to connect it. All right, I'm going to repeat the same thing on the other side of the fabric. You can see this is the lining I'm marking up now. I'm marking up both sides of the fabric. This is going to help you place your darts, hold your darts to the correct place, especially on the lining. You won't make that mistake. If you mark it like this, you won't make that mistake of darting the lining facing the wrong way. I'm going to do the same thing on the front. You can see I'm marking the 3 points, the top, the fullest point of the darts, and the lowest point. All right, you can see this is the fabric I'm marking up after I've done the lining. So now when you are done with that, the first thing we are going to do on the sewing machine is we're going to hold our darts. All right, so you start holding that on both sides of the back and on the lining. Yeah, another thing, a quick tip, because especially with your lining, I don't want you to have that issue. If you don't want to make that mistake of sewing your darts facing the wrong way, the first thing you should do is to join the center of the back together, so that you know that once you hold the darts facing the where you have the chalk line, both of your darts are facing the correct place. So that's a quick tip for you. So you can see me here joining in center of the back, though because I have ironed the stay onto my fabric, it doesn't really matter. I know where the wrong side of the fabric is now, but you can see me here joining the center of the back. Then I'm going to hold the darts. I'm going to start from nothing, open up to the fullest point, that's that middle mark, and then taper out at the bottom. You can see what I'm doing. By the time I hit ½ inch, I'm at the middle line that we marked when we're marking all the dart marks. Here I'm stitching, joining both sides of the back together. I'm going to do the same thing I did with my darts over here. All right, next thing we're going to do is you're going to head over to your ironing table. Very important. You see all this seam we just stitched. You're going to head over to your ironing table and iron here flat so that everything is smooth. And then when you're done with that, repeat the same. Hold your darts on all sides of the front. Just mark all the points where you marked it. Because of how we marked it, of how we turned everything and marked it, it'll be very difficult for you to make a mistake and your darts facing the wrong way. All right, so just simply hold your darts, the same thing we did before. Start from nothing, open up to ½ inch when you as soon as you hit wherever that midline, that second line, when we're marking out the dart points is, that's where that should be the fullest point of the dart. Then quickly taper out as you approach the bottom of the darts. All right, so first of all, before off camera, but I will add a clip here. I tried to show you guys how to mark out your pockets, because this is going to have belt pockets. It's a blaze, it's a jacket at the end of the day. So you see this, you're cutting 1 inch into the dart point. You see this 1 inch into the dart point, and then you're going to mark a dart point that is 4.2 inches long. 4.2 inches, make a dart, mark there, and then rule your line. That's going to be the top pockets. All right, this is going to be marked on the left part of your bodice, please. The left part, that's where you have your left bust. That's the only place that would have that top pockets. As for the bottom pockets, that's the pockets that sit around the waist. You are going to come to your waistline. All right, You're going to come from the middle of the line, that's the middle of your darts. Again, you're going to come in by 1.5 inches from your darts. Remember to do this on your fabric, not on your paper. I'm marking it on the paper just so that you understand where to place it on your fabric. And then we're going to come in from that 1.5, I'm coming to 4.5 inches. That's how wide the pocket is going to be. So yeah, I've made a video on how to create a welt pocket. Please make sure to see that video. That it's going to take a lot of time. I've already made a video on it, so I don't want to waste our time trying to filming that all over again. So the link is in the description. I'll go ahead to make all my welt pockets. Now mind you, the bottom pockets would be on both sides of your jacket. All right, you can see I've created all the welts, so you can see that. Make sure you create yours as well. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to join the fabric separately, and I'll join the lining separately. What I mean by join the fabric separately is I will join the shoulder, the top parts, at 1/2 inch. All right, I'm going to join both sides of the shoulder by 1/2 inch. You can see here I'm sewing 1/2 inch at the shoulder, on both of the shoulders, and then we're going to go on to joining the sides. On the sides, I'm going to hold 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches everywhere from the top all the way down. All right. On both sides, I'm going to do the same thing here as well. 1.5 inch here all the way down. Once you are done stitching this, please make sure to head over to your your ironing table and iron it flat. I'll do the same thing on my lining, just like I did on the fabric. Join the lining at the shoulder at 1/2 inch. That's what you can see me doing here. All right. Then I'm going to join the sides, consuming the same 1.5 inches from top to bottom. All right. Okay. Now, when you are done, make sure, like I said before, to iron the seams flat on both the fabric and on the lining. All right. All right. When you are done ironing, the next thing we're going to do is you are going to bring the fabric and the lining together at the bottom. All right, first. So you're going to come to the hem. Now I know that the fabric is 3 inches, the lining is 3 inches shorter, but you would force it to join the to meet the bottom, the fabric, sorry, at the same level, even though it is shorter. That's the whole point, so that by the time you force the lining to meet the neckline at the top, it helps to create a folded hem. Well, after we join it at the bottom, now the front of the excess, that's that 5 inches excess that we added. So at the front of our jacket, that's the center of the front, we're going to join the center of the front together from here, from the top all the way down. All right, I hope that you guys understand. The front part of the jacket, that's that how you enter into the jacket, the edges, the front edges, that's what we are trying to join now. All right, we're going to hold 1 inch from here all the way down. All right, so this is like the point that holds your buttons, right? The edge where that holds your buttons, that's the edge that we're sealing now. And if we force them to be at the same level at the top, it will automatically bend the bottom and give us a folded hem. All right, so if I turn everything inside out, you can see that now the edge has been folded. You see here, perfect. So you can see this is the part I was trying to explain, that this is what we're trying to hold. All right, so just make sure you iron everything smooth. Make sure to press it so that everything is smooth. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the lapel. This is the lapel. Now the fabric that's under there is on the fold. I folded it before placing this pattern on top. Because it's on the fold, if I put my scissors here, I'll end up with 2 pieces of this paper. I'll cut 2 parts out of the fabric and I'll cut two parts out of lining, or you can use the green fabric. But this part is going to sit underneath the black. This black here is the part of the lapel that that everyone will see. That's why I picked a black that has like a pattern to it. The other one you will cut is the part that will be underneath, that will face the jacket itself. Make sure to iron stay onto this part right here. So as you can see on this pattern here, I've ironed on stay. If you want it to be a bit stiffer, you can use something like cloth gum, but I don't think there's really a need. Stay would be just fine. So this part here, I use the fabric. I'm using the fabric as the lining. You will not see here. It will sit facing the body. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place front side facing front side, and then I would sew out the outer parts of the curve. All right, I'm going to just sew 1/2 inch around the outer part of the curve. All right, and when you are done making that stitch, you are going to make cuts into the lapel, especially around the curve, to allow it to turn smoothly inside out. So if you had cut everything on the fold, like I said, well, that's on the fold for the black, on the fold for the Ankara, you end up with 4 pieces. So 2 pieces will be used to make one, the other 2 will be used to make the opposite side of the lapel. All right, so iron your lapel, and then we'll come back so we can join this to the body. So this is what we have done so far. Let me move the camera back a bit so that you guys can see. So you can see how this is looking. This is how the shawl lapel is going to flow. What I want you to do is I want you to get your pins, and I want you to pin the lapel to the fabric only. The lining should not interfere at all. Just pin the lapel to the body all the way to the center of the back. Just watch and see what I'm doing. All right, so you can see I'm carefully pinning, making sure the lapel follows the contours of the neckline and smoothing out. So you can see I'm going to pin there, and I'm going to spin and get close to the center of the back. I'll keep like a 1 inch, a 1/2 inch space away from the center of the back. I'm also going to pin the this other side as well. Make sure to stop also 1/2 inch before the center of the back. All right, after all that has been done, you can see this is the center of the back here. Excuse me. And here we have the lapel. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to lay the lapel flat. What we're trying to do is you want to cut the back of the lapel with 1/2 inch excess after the line. You see this? That line is supposed to sit right. You can see what I'm doing there. I'm cutting 1/2 inch away from the line so that I have 1/2 inch for sewing both the 2 separate lapels together as one. So just watch and see. You can see where the 1/2 inch line is. You can see that I cut this one here 1/2 inch longer than where that line stops. I'm going to repeat the same thing on this other lapel here, right? You can see this. I'm going to cut it to be 1/2 inch longer than the line. You can see that. I'm going to take out the pins so that you'll be able to sew, but don't take out everything. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to sew them together, front facing front, black on black, and the pattern on the pattern, 1/2 inch across. All right, then head over to your ironing table, spread and iron this joining you just made flat, and come back. All right, make sure to iron this before you seal everything. After you've ironed that, you see we've turned the shawl lapel into just one piece. Now you see this lapel, the edge of the lapel, that's the tip of the lapel. We're burying it in between the fabric and the lining, and we'll sew 1/2 inch all the way around. If we start here, it will take us to the other end of the front of the lapel on the other side. I hope that that's clear. All right, so I'm going to just turn front side of the fabric to face the clean side of the lining. You see what I'm doing? Bury the tip inside so that there's no rough edge. And then we're going to simply sew 1/2 inch. You can see the way I'm taking my lining. Sorry. You can see the way I'm burying the lining inside. The lapel in between the fabric and the lining. All right. You will need to pass through your armhole. That's one of the armholes that are still open to come out at the end of the day. Please be careful that all your lines meet. So your shoulder line should meet, your center of your back should be at the center of your back. No line should be offset. Take your time gradually until you get to the other side. You can see, turning everything out of the holes. That's the armholes that we have. By the time we turn everything inside out, what you would see is that you have created the lapel, but it doesn't look like it was joined. Once this is ironed, it looks like it was cut as one piece. Really, this is the easiest method I know for making a shawl lapel. Now I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to cut my sleeve and sew my sleeve. I've made a video on how to sew a sleeve, a 2-piece sleeve. Link is in the description, just like how I dropped a link for the welts. Make sure to see the video on how to draft a 2-piece sleeve. Link is in the description. After you've done that, I've fixed the first sleeve. Let me show you how I fixed the second sleeve. Because the second sleeve is fixed as the first sleeve, the only difference is that you need to find your way out of it. So let me show you using the most important sleeve, that's the last sleeve. The first part I'm going to fix is my lining. Okay, turn to the clean side of the armhole lining. Look for the clean side of the armhole part of your sleeve, that's the lining on your sleeve. Then you see the way I'm placing it, front facing front, and then turn to the rough side, and then simply just stitch around. Being that it's a sleeve, if you start stitching, it's going to just form a loop and bring you back to where you started. So you can see that it's going to just take you around. All right, I'm checking to see that everything is straight, that the lining has not twisted. The next thing we're going to do is, we did not keep any hole in the body, so I'm going to just come to the side, look for any place where you see a line, preferably your side seam. All right, and just loosen up like a 5-inch hole from the journey you made on the side. That will allow you to access the armhole. So what we're going to do is, you're going to take the clean side of your armhole. Make sure that anything you iron flat stays flat. All right, once you hold the armhole like that, arrange your fabric and your lining. Those armholes, the front side of your sleeve, the bottom part of the clean side of your sleeve should face the bottom side of the clean part of your body. That's at the armhole. And then it's a sleeve, so once you start stitching, it's going to take you in a loop and bring you around. When you are done, make sure to put your arm through your lining to make sure that your lining has not twisted. And if your finger makes it across, that means you've passed. So simply knitting up the hole that you used to access the hole that gave you access, simply seal it back. Right, and once you've done that, iron this thoroughly so that everything sits nicely. And when you are done with that, the last thing you're going to do is figure out where you want your buttonholes to be, and then you're going to need to do your buttonholes, attach your buttons, and after that you're pretty much done. But if you've watched this far, this is the end of the video from me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being patient. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Bye.